So hi everyone, today I'm going to present some cool Recon stuff with my girl gang and we will learn more about reconnaissance, few demos, host and subdomain discovery techniques, web server connections and information. So before we start, let's get started with a little round of introduction with our team of girls. So maybe we could start with Savreen.
Yeah. So hello everyone. I'm Savreen. I'm working as a security analyst at Canadian Natural Resources Limited. I have done my bachelor's from India in computer science, and that's how I had my interest in computers from beginning. And I got a chance to study cryptography and some cyber laws and network security, and I was always interested to get into this field. And that's how I came here, and I found the information system security program at SAFE. And after that, I got a chance to work as an intern at CNRM, where I'm working now. And I am really excited for this talk. This is my first talk, and I really hope we all can learn together from this talk. And thank you for coming to our talk. Maybe Manjot, now you can go ahead.
Hello everyone. I'm a cybersecurity researcher and ethicist. So I have done my Bachelor's of Science back in India. Then after that, I have done my diploma, postgraduate diploma in computer applications. During that diploma, I found different fields in the computer field. So I came across the cybersecurity. So I felt that the analytical and logical thinking that I have developed during my bachelor's and the postgraduate diploma, I can use that thinking to develop new skills related to the cybersecurity. Then I got opportunity to attend a diploma in information system security at SAIT. During my diploma, I have developed so many new skills that helped me to gain more interest in this field. So I'm very excited about today's talk, and I'm so thankful about this opportunity. Thank you.
Go next. Hi, I'm Sargun. I'm working as a malware research analyst co-op at Nokia. I am in the final year of my master's in cybersecurity at the University of Victoria, but I have a bachelor's in electronics and telecommunication back from India. I always knew that I wanted to get into cybersecurity, which is why I decided to pursue my master's in it. And I'm really excited to be here and present our topic of Recon. Thank you.
So hello, I hope everyone is doing well and safe. I'm Maryam. I did my bachelor in back home in Iran. Then I did my first master, and for my thesis, I worked on privacy preserving data mining. And I was successful to publish 2 papers in this field. Then I got interested in cybersecurity, so I just decided to continue my education here in Canada. So I did it, and I just graduated from NYIT Vancouver. And I'm really excited and thankful for this great opportunity today. Thank you.
So hi everyone, I am Mrigakshi. Sorry, I just went out of internet somehow. And I'm currently working at Buckroud as an application security engineer, and I really enjoy my work, learning about new bugs every day is really interesting. It's very exciting for me. On the side, I love to shake a leg on different music and maybe biking sometimes. Um, yeah. So let's get started with our recon for today. The agenda for next 15 minutes would be why recon is the first step and how I usually start and common recon and basic techniques. I hope everybody is able to see my screen right now. So the panelists, can you see my screen? How do you feel when you meet a new person? Well, you are doubtful, right? To remove those doubts, you do a background check. Reconnaissance is exactly that background check. Reconnaissance is the first step a hacker, a pen tester, or a bug bounty hunter will take, where they will try to gather as much information as possible about the target. Often, a hacker will begin with passive reconnaissance, which doesn't involve direct interaction and is harder to detect. It doesn't involve the tools that touch the target site, network, or computers. Active reconnaissance, on the other hand, would touch some of them. Some of the ways to do a reconnaissance could involve job advertisements, which can reveal contact information, requirements to know certain softwares and equipments that may have certain vulnerabilities and are currently used in some companies. Search engines like Google, Bing, and Yahoo, which provide great insights on lots of targets. Terms like Google hacking and dorking recently became famous and will be taken care by Savreen in the later part of the video. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Glassdoor, and many other websites expose a lot of information by employees that have identified some targets that they worked on and are involved with. This is a part of information gathering as well. Who is great website that prevents users from getting footprints detected online. Whois also provides the names of servers, IP addresses, ranges of the IP addresses, and administrator email addresses, and so on. Crunchbase is a very good tool for finding out recent acquisitions, and Wayback Machine can help discover past versions of website, allowing us to review more target sites. Let's find out how Whois works. So I have prepared a small video showing how Whois works. I would generally type in Whois and the name of my target like that. So it would give me a lot of information about who registered the target domain, like the registered domain ID, Whois server name, etc. Let's see how I generally start. So we can see, go to a target website and simply type robots.txt. The file basically tells the artificial intelligence or search engines about the paths or web pages that they should crawl on your website and generally meant to be public. Robots.txt is definitely a good idea to go on. Similarly, admin directory is a good idea to go on. But here in this case, I don't seem to have real luck. I'm not able to find admin. So let's try inspect element. Let's find out if there is something exposed in the source code and elements page. Well, sometimes going to admin directory and finding 404 errors is also a good idea. So I don't seem to have luck in finding admin pages and source code, but now I'll try typing something irrelevant that might make me go to a 404 error page. let's see if I can go to a 404 error page. Okay, no, not this. So I just type in hack. Well, there's no 404 error page. Looks like I'm unsuccessful. Let's try .wellknown security.txt. Yeah, so .wellknown security.txt is a common website, which is also meant to be public, a common path. And security.txt is a must-visit path as security persons and researcher, because this is proposed standard which allows websites to define security policies. Therefore, security.txt is meant for allowing security researchers to report some security vulnerabilities. Yeah, we succeed here. So let's now try finding few more directories by using GoBuster and some manual recon techniques on hack.me. On this website, I click on inspect element and I check out if there are, okay, so there are some exports directories, but I want to find more directories. So what do I do? Maybe I'll try this tool GoBuster. I pre-installed GoBuster on Kali, and I'm using a seclist word list here, and -u means the URL. So my URL, it will be the target website, and a word list to brute force the directories. So here I'm running GoBuster with the directory syntax, and I'm gonna try executing this command. Um, it also shows the statuses, which is a response code. 301 generally won't give me anything relevant, but let's find out if there is something else that might turn into a directory. Again, 301. Yeah, so there is 1302. I think this should be this should give me some positive result. Let's find if this directory and any more. So next one is 301 again. Yeah, so let's try finding the directory S. Yeah, it is available. So we are successful in finding directories. So it's a uh, short video, but you can find more directories. Let's talk about more about basic recon. Basic recon has a lot of aspects to it. One of this is getting IP range and classless interdomain routing, that is CIDR. IP addresses can be taken from the IPv4 and IPv6 pool and are divided into two parts: a network section and a host section. The network section identifies the particular network, and the host section identifies a particular node. For example, a certain computer on a local area network. While the main goal of CIDR was to decrease the rapid exhaustion of IPv4 addresses, knowing about IP ranges helps us figure out the attack surface. MX Toolbox and this domain IP converter are some of the tools that help us process this. Favicon hash is also used in these searches. For example, in Shodan.io, which is a great website to find out a lot of information about targets, favicon hashes are used to find specific targets. Favicon hash is just a base 64 encoded MMH3 hash that can be calculated by popular tools and also can be calculated just by taking out the base 64 hash of any website slash favicon.ico and then converting it to an MMH3 hash. The input value, so for example, the input value should be encoded to a base 64 value, and the base 64 output should be used as the input for the MMH3 or Morbor3 hash. The final output is the numeric value and can be searched on shodan.io in the format http favicon.hash and then the value, numeric value of the favicon hash. I'm going to show it in a while. A website needs SSL certificate in order to keep user data secure, verify ownership of website, prevent attackers from creating a fake version of the site, and gain users' trust. SSL are more commonly used and also called TLS, is a protocol for encrypting internet traffic and verifying server identity. Any website with an HTTPS web address uses SSL or TLS. Shodan can provide information about parsed certificates, certificate chain, supported SSL versions, and preferred cipher. Let's see a quick demo that shows more information about all these processes. So I'm again going to go to hack.me, which is my preferred website, and I'm going to type it in mxtoolbox.com. mxtoolbox.com is going to give me certain IP addresses. Also, it tells me that DMRC policies not enabled, which means that the emails from this website can be spoofed and someone else can send emails showing that they are from this website while they are not. SPF check is another website where we can type the same domain name and check if there are some SPF records for it. So yes, there are some SPF records, and the person would not be able to fool because of SPF records, but DMRC records are not there. So definitely we need to check both those records. Let's see what we can do with shodan.io. So sometimes you can search like country Canada, in Canada in inverted commas. So that would give us specific resources from Canada. And you can see that there are specific IP addresses that may be vulnerable to some of the issues. It also shows some open ports and some of the services that are running on whatever target I open up. For example, Apache HTTPD and the version it is running on. I can then go on a common vulnerability database and search for that service and find out how I can attack on that IP address. I can also search certain webcams exposed in certain areas, and then I can also advance the query. Yeah. And then now I'm going to show you a GitHub repository where I have certain favicon hashes of certain targets, certain commonly used targets, Jenkins, Atlassian, Chainpoint, etc. Just I'm using this for ease of today, but you can also calculate the favicon hash definitely. So I'm going to just type http://favicon.hash : and then the numeric value of the favicon hash. So this would give me specific search about my target. This would tell me lots of information about the target I'm searching for. So all three targets, Jira, Atlassian Jira, Java, Jira, all those belong to the same website, and they're different targets of the same company. Because of the favicon hash, we are able to get a specific range, and we can do more recon easily by this. We can also find out a lot more about SSL certificate of these websites. So let's see more about SSL certificate. If I go to hack.me, I can see that hack.me has this SSL certificate, which I can open again and find out more information about it. So sometimes there is a DNS name that is something else, and this can be prevented by using HTS access files. If this name is something else, then that name would also open up and is an alias name for the same target application, target website. In this case, we don't find it. So yeah, let's move on. Up next will be some more information about host and domain by Sargun, and DNS records and web servers by Maryam, and outbound connections by Manjot. Some more information about information gathering by Savreen.
So now that we have a basic understanding about basic recon, like Mrigakshi just explained, let us move on to the host discovery. So my agenda for today would be talking about what host discovery is and what are the popular scanning tools we can use in order to perform scanning on the network. But before we dive into the host discovery, let me ask the audience a question. So whenever I tell people that I can hack, or when I got started into hacking, my friends used to ask me, can I hack into their boyfriends or girlfriends' Facebook accounts or Instagram accounts, which used to be really shocking to me that people would want to do that because that's just unethical. But I want to know from the audience whether they have had such weird experiences when they tell people that they can hack. So, Savreen, would you like to tell us if you have had such an experience? Or
All
anybody in
the
the
Yes, all the time. I think whenever I tell my friends and someone who don't know me and I'm introducing myself, that's the first question I've been asked. Can you hack Facebook? Can you hack Instagram? And I don't know what to answer.
What about you, Mrigakshi?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, I think some of my friends do ask me such questions to hack the different accounts for their spouses and girlfriends. Yeah, and I feel that this is not an ethical way, and I prefer giving them a lecture rather than doing anything helpful to them. So yeah, I really face that.
How about you, Manjot?
Yes, I had the experience when I told my friends back in India I'm in cybersecurity, and in general words, it's like about the hacking. And they asked me if I can hack some WhatsApp or Facebook.
Maryam, what about you?
I can remember when I was studying for bachelor, everybody around me, my friends, my family, just asked me to fix their computers and laptops. And the same story here, when I just tell that I'm studying cybersecurity, they just ask me to hack some, profiles. And yeah, it's funny, the same story.
It is funny.
That reminds
Okay.
me. One of my friends once asked me, can you hack a bank account?
Oh my God. Wow. Okay, thank you for sharing your experiences. So let's dive into host discovery. Host discovery is the very first steps in the reconnaissance phase. It is used to gather information about the vulnerable systems on your network or the attacker's network. Scanning every single port of every single IP address on your network can be tiring, and it's usually unnecessary. So host discovery is one of the methods by which you can narrow down your list of IP addresses to ones that are actually interesting or active. Host discovery can be performed in the following 3 ways. So first would be network scanning, where you scan your network and it lists all the IP addresses that are active on your network. Port scanning, where the attacker can scan your network for any systems on the network that have any open ports, for example. And vulnerability scanning is used to gather information about any hosts on the network that are using, for example, unpatched versions of services, which can then later on be used in the exploitation phase. So the goal for this host discovery concept is to have a list of targets for the next stage, that is exploitation, and gather as much information as you can about all the systems on your network. So you can gather information like IP address, their MAC address, what kind of OS the system is running on, and what kind of services they're running, etc. So it is really easy to find vulnerabilities using host discovery, and they're often labeled as low-hanging fruit. So moving on to the next slide, we see the popular scanning tools. There are a lot of scanning tools out there like Nmap, Nessus, Angry IP Scanner by so many organizations like SolarWinds, Akinetics, Splunk. But my favorite one to use personally is Nmap, just because how accessible it is. And there are so many resources on the internet you could find to help walk you through all the tutorials and how you can perform scanning using Nmap. Also, Nmap can be run on Windows, Linux, Mac, all the platforms. So Nmap is also a very efficient port scanner. You can just run a command, Nmap, and the target, and it will list all the ports that are open or closed within a matter of a few seconds. So Nmap usually classifies the ports into 6 categories. That is open, closed, filtered, unfiltered, open or filtered, and closed or filtered. So the open ports are the ports that are accessible and they're actively listening for connections. These are the type of ports that attackers are usually trying to find in order to exploit any services on the host network. Closed ports are the ones that are accessible, but there is no application running on them. Filtered ports are the ones that are being blocked by a firewall or any other network obstacles. So Nmap is usually not able to decide whether the port is open or closed. Unfiltered are the ports that are responsive to the Nmap's probes, but the Nmap is just not able to decide whether they're open or closed. And then we have the last 2 categories, open or filtered and closed or filtered. They're just combinations that Nmap has put out when it cannot decide whether it's open or filtered or closed or filtered. So we will be seeing how to use Nmap to find information about our networks by using these 3 commands. There are a lot of commands on using Nmap, but for this particular talk, we will be talking about how to ping hosts, how to collect the OS version, and services. But before we show you the demo, we just want to put this disclaimer out there that it's strictly prohibited to use Nmap to scan somebody's network without approval or for any reason. So be careful, don't use it for illegal purposes. Okay, let's see the demo. So if I type Nmap on my Kali Linux, it will show me all the commands that I can use in order to perform pinging services or OS version, etc. And this command that I'm showing is to find out a list of IP addresses around the globe. Like Mrigakshi was talking about Shodan. To find IPs, this is another website that can give you a lot of information about the IP addresses around the world. So if I click on Germany, and it will give me a list of all the IP addresses of the major companies in Germany, along with the dates they were created. So if I want to see who is this, suppose this IP address, I can just copy and go who is and the IP address, and it will give me the information about the country, like it's Germany and who it's registered to, and all the fun stuff. And it will even give you the creation date and all the hosted domain names. So I am running Nmap on my Kali Linux, yes. So let's dive into, you can also use Whois to, like Mrigakshi showed, you can also use Whois on Kali Linux. It should take a couple of seconds to load the results, but it will show you the same information that we just saw before. So Kali Linux is a really powerful tool, yes. So now we will use Nmap to find this scanme.nmap.org website. This is a website that is put out by the Nmap people as educational purposes. So you can scan it, you can do whatever with it because it's for education. You can learn using this. So we will be seeing and scanning using this particular website. So if I want to see whether this domain is actually active or not, I would just be typing nmap flag sp for pinging the domain, and it should load with the IP address, and it should say that the host is up, but it will take a few seconds. Yeah, so there you go. So we can see host is up, and it says this is the IP address for the domain. Now, if I want to see what kind of OS the domain is running on, I would be using the O flag. That would be a capital O. And also you would need root privileges for running this command. So you would go sudo and then nmap capital O and your domain. You can also use an IP address range instead of the domain itself. So this command will give you all the ports that are open, all the services that are running on the ports, and also the version of the OS and the type of OS that's running. So there you go. You see that port 22 is open, port 80 is open, and these are the services that are running on those, that could be running on those ports. And down on the bottom, you see that it's running on a Linux machine and the version of the Linux as well. Yeah. So moving on, I want to show you how you can see what kind of versions of the services that the host is running. So this command would be particularly useful to find out if the host is running any unpatched services. So that can be used in the exploitation phase, just because the service is unpatched. And it will take a couple of seconds, but yeah, so you see that it's running the SSH version, and it's running the Apache HTTPD, this version. So yeah, I hope you found this demo useful. And now, you wouldn't want hackers to scan your network, because that is really, really dangerous. So let us discuss some tips on how you can prevent that from happening. You should always keep your ports that are not in use, you should keep them closed. Also, Nmap is a really noisy scanner, so firewalls and intrusion detection and prevention systems are useful in order to create alerts that would help you to see whether somebody actually scanned your network or not. So it would be a good idea to have them. And you should always install updates and patch your services, just because hackers are always looking for vulnerabilities on the networks to exploit. And whenever you see the little box reminding you to install your updates, do not click on remind me later, just because it's so dangerous, and you know that you wouldn't install it later. You will always keep on procrastinating. I do. I'm guilty of that, but we shouldn't be doing that. So yeah. Moving on to the host versions by Maryam.
Thank you, Sargun. So as you can see here, about the importance of domains and subdomains information in reconnaissance process. So I'm gonna have a short introduction and also talking about the domains and subdomains, also introducing some tools, subdomains. Then I'm gonna cover subdomains takeover, and at the end, some mitigation plans. So, in fact, any security evaluation should start with reconnaissance or so the first step is collecting information about the target as much as possible for later steps to use. In web-based systems, this usually includes viewing each of the hosted web pages, discovering the automation technologies in use, checking for configuration and security leaks, and a lot more. And performing a reconnaissance actually allows an attacker to find weak points of the target. So yeah, thank you. Subdomain. Subdomain lets you actually separate a portion of your site without going through all of the trouble of setting up a new site with a new domain, or confusing visitors with a completely different root domain. So many countries use subdomains. For example, if you need help with any of Google apps, you will be directed to this page. And actually, discovering subdomains of a domain is an essential part of reconnaissance. And having an actually unsecure subdomain can lead to serious risk to any kind of businesses. So there are several tools to find and discover the subdomains of any domain. So there are actually, these are some popular ones that you can use them in order to find the subdomains. So the main problem would be regarding subdomain would be subdomain takeover. So subdomain takeover occurs when an attacker gains control over a subdomain of a target domain. This happens when the subdomain has a CNAME in the DNS, but no host is providing content for it. This can happen because either a virtual host hasn't been published yet, or a virtual host has been removed. If the process of provisioning and deprovisioning, actually removing a virtual host, is not handled properly, there can be an opportunity for an attacker to take over a subdomain. So in provisioning, suppose you control the domain example.com. You want to add a blog at blog.example.com. The process you go through might look like this. You register the name blog.example.com with a domain registrar. You set DNS records to direct browsers that want to access blog.example.com so that they go to the virtual host. You create a virtual host at the hosting provider. Unless the hosting provider is very careful to verify that the entity who sets the virtual host actually is the owner of the subdomain name, an attacker who is quicker than you could create a virtual host with the same host provider using your subdomain name. In such a case, as soon as you set DNS in a step 2, the attacker can host content actually on your subdomain. And in case of deprovisioning, you don't want to maintain the blog anymore. So you remove the virtual host from the hosting provider. However, if you don't remove the DNS entry that points to the hosting provider, an attacker can now create their own virtual host with that provider, claim your subdomain, and host their own content under the subdomain. And the consequences. So if an attacker can do this, they would be able to read cookies set from the main domain, perform cross-site scripting attack, and circumvent security policies. Yes, and that's one. But how to prevent? Preventing subdomain takeover is a matter of order of operation for virtual hosts and DNS. Start provisioning by claiming the virtual host and create DNS records last. Start deprovisioning by removing DNS records first. Also create an inventory of all of your organization's domains and their hosting providers, and update it as things change. And you can also put pressure on hosting vendors to close gaps. And as the last step, ask how they verify that someone claiming a virtual host. So work within your organization to make this part of the vendor qualification process.
Yeah. Before we continue with Manjot, I hope you all know that we have a quiz in the end and we have great prizes. We have Cyber Woman Volume 2 signed by Aarti Gadia, and second prize will be some of the Buckerout swags like a water bottle and a grasshopper t-shirt. So I hope you all are excited for those. Let's continue with Manjot.
So my agenda for today is the web servers we host, SSRF, server-side request forgery, then the ping packs. Starting with the web servers. Next slide, please. So a web server is typically the destination of traffic. It's not the source of the traffic. Identifying when a web server initiated outbound traffic, especially in order to download files, can be useful in the situations like reconstructing a website defacement. On a single web server, multiple web servers can run at the same time. Reconnaissance is the process to find information about web servers, such as ports, services running on them, and the related vulnerabilities. So when a reconnaissance is performed on the web servers, it is a process which includes to find important information, which includes the ports, services running on those ports, and the related vulnerabilities. Moving on to the vhost. The vhosts are the domain names that are hosting on web server, which share its resources partially. The vhost, there are numerous vhosts at the same time run on the web server. So why is it important to test vhosts? If an attacker would get an access of a vulnerable website on a web server, then it can affect the whole web server. Through this website, the attacker could access the backend system and could get access to the confidential data or can alter the functionality of the server. A malicious user could gain administrator privileges and could change the content of a website to defame a company or to damage some organization's reputation. It could also be possible to assess the websites that are running on the same server through that vulnerable website by the attacker. So moving to the next slide, we will talk about the server-side request forgery, which is an attack in which the attacker can abuse the functionality on the server to read or update internal resources. The attacker can supply or modify a URL which the code running on the server will read or submit data to. And by carefully selecting the URLs, the attacker may be able to read server configuration, such as the metadata or connect to internal services. Then connect to the internal services like HTTP enabled databases or perform post requests towards internal services which are not intended to be exposed. The target application may have functionality for importing data from a URL, publishing data to a URL, or otherwise reading data from a URL that can be tampered with. The attacker can modify the calls to this functionality by supplying a completely different URL or by manipulating how URLs are built. When the manipulated request goes to the server-side code picks up the manipulated URL and tries to process it, and then it will manipulate the data on that website. The attacker can read the data from that website, and it can be used to import the untrusted data into the website through a code. And then going to the pingbacks. So first of all, a pingback is a type of link back. It is a method which enables the web authors to request for a notification when someone links to their document. This method provides the facility of keeping track that who is linking on or referring to the web document. Some weblog softwares like WordPress support automatic messages or pingbacks, which can be exploited by the hackers. So, in compromising pingbacks, firstly, WordPress resolves the source URL and provides messages if the URL exists or not. So from these messages, the attacker can know if there are some particular host in the internal network. Then after that, if the URL is resolved, then WordPress try to specify connect to the specified port and the responses are different if the port is open or closed. After this, the attacker will try to connect to that port and it can be used to scan post on the host inside the internal network if it connects to that port. Thank you. Now Savreen will light up the information gathering.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about data and information leakage, information disclosure, how some websites or applications can unintentionally reveal some data about them, and how attackers can use that data to attack and perform, and they can also put malware to make it worse. So before that, what is information disclosure? It just means that leaking of information, and it's unintentional. When the developers are making websites, they sometimes leave comments which is visible in the production environment, and sometimes they have they put hard-coded passwords or API keys, which can be used by attacker. If the attackers can see that, they can use to plan a big attack. So what kind of information, what kind of data can be exposed by a website? It can be data about other users, like their usernames. And if someone is able to know the username, they can easily know, they can try password spraying, and they can always, the attackers knows the ways to get the passwords. So other kind of information that can be leaked is sensitive business data information. And thirdly, the technical details about a website and the infrastructure. Now, how that information is, and how that information can be used by attackers is that they can know what versions of tools or applications a website is using, and then they can know the vulnerabilities associated with those tools and applications. And then if they know that, and if they are not properly patched, they can plan a big attack. So that kind of information is also something that we should take care of, because normally we think that sensitive information like credit card details or usernames, only those need to be protected. But there have been attacks where just knowing what the website is using and what all tools it's using, what version it is using, only knowing that information can be harmful, as the attackers can use that and plan attack. And so the other kind of examples of information disclosure are sometimes hidden directory names can be exposed by a website. And then there can be access to the source code via the backup files. And sometimes when we run into some errors in a website, the database names or the column names of the database can be exposed, and that can also be used by attackers. And then sometimes the websites can expose highly sensitive information to their website to the attackers. And the reasons how and why information disclosure happens is sometimes we fail to remove internal content from the public content. Like I mentioned before, developers, they leave comments, and that can be seen by the attackers. And then there is insecure configuration of the website and flawed design and behavior of application. So I have a demo to show. I have screenshots where we can see how source code can be exposed. So this website, if you see the first screenshot is the robots.txt file, which was also shown by Mrigakshi, and she showed us how how attackers can get information from this this particular text file. So if you see the first screenshot, it says a backup. So that's another hidden directory name that we found. And if you see the other screenshot, the one below that, and we go to backup directory, there is a file product template. And if we go to the next slide, we can see when we click on that, yeah, so we have the password has been hard-coded there by the developer. So this is a common mistake by developers. They do that all the time. And it's really important to protect this information, because once an attacker knows the password for databases or other accounts, admin accounts, it's highly, it can be used to plan really big attacks. Moving on, the other demo that I have here to show is how information can be disclosed in error messages. Now, everyone would think, how can an error message reveal information? But this information can be used by attackers to hack websites or plan attacks. So this website has products, and when we for this I used burp scanner, and it's a scanner that helps you to intercept packets when we click on when we click somewhere on a website, and before getting the response, we can intercept the packets, and this tool, burp scanner, helps us do that. Moving on to the next slide. When I clicked on the first product, the cycle that you see there, bicycle. So here, this screenshot is showing the GET request for the product that I clicked on, and it says product ID is equal to 1 that I have highlighted there. Moving on to the next slide. I just changed product ID to my name, Savreen. I just wanted to see if we add a string instead of a number, how would it react? What the response of the website would be? And that is, we get an error. And if you see this, the whole list of errors in the bottom, you see Apache struts 2.2.3.31, which means that this application is being used by this website, and if there are any vulnerabilities associated with it, the attackers, if an attacker knows about this and he or she knows the vulnerabilities associated with it, they can easily try to exploit it. Moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so the other, I don't have demos to show these, but the other types of information disclosure are authentication bypass. And again, we can, some websites, they're not properly made, and they expose sensitive information. And sometimes we see passwords for admins, and it's really easy for attackers to use that. Then there is disclosure through a version control history. Now, if we think about it, we might think that it's not that harmful if we know the versions of of an application, but yes, they are harmful. If attacker knows that information, they can use that. And then there is information disclosure on the debug pages. Attackers can get a lot of information out of that too. Mitigation, there are a lot of ways to protect your websites and applications, but a few of them here are that we should make sure that the web server is not sending response headers or background information, because that's the part where most of the information is, that what kind of applications are being used, what versions are used, what builds are used. So we need to make sure that our web server doesn't do that. And similarly, the open ports, they should not reveal information about their versions, and proper access controls and authorizations should be in place. So talking a little about, before talking about the takeaways, I would like to talk about Google dorking. It's also called Google hacking, and it's a way for us to so there are some syntax that we can follow to find out some files that are out there on the internet. And there are some organizations who don't take care of the PDFs that they have on the internet, the Excel sheets. So I did a little project in my school where I was able to find some PDF files of an organization, and they had some. There could be an information. I didn't find anything, but there could be information about the kind of usernames they are using within their organizations. For example, first name dot last name at company.com. So these kind of information, they can be used by attackers, and then they can try to plan phishing attacks by finding people on LinkedIn or anywhere if they're planning to attack a company. So it's really important for us to make sure that whatever information we have on the internet, it cannot be used by attackers in any way to plan attack. Talking about the takeaways from this attack, as Mrigakshi began the talk with the introductory video that said that Recon is just like meeting someone new. When we don't know someone, we would want to know who they are, and we just don't meet them. We like to know what the background is, and that's what Recon is. So we should know what we are, what all we know, and what we should let people know. Secondly, host discovery is one of the first steps in Recon, and Sargun and Mrigakshi and Maryam and Manjot, they all talked about it, and they showed us various tools that can be used for scanning, and they showed a lot of demos. Lastly, websites or applications can reveal a lot of information unintentionally. Even if we think that our website is secure, there might be some loopholes. So it's always best practice to check for those loopholes so that our websites are secure and we don't expose any sensitive information. And now, thank you for listening to us. And now is the time for the quiz.
We hope you all enjoyed our session. We all were really excited to have this session with you all. And so if anybody has questions, just give them in the chat. And if there are a few questions, and then we'll say goodbye to you.
So we have a question from Jatni. How long have you been in pen testing or hacking?
Should I take it?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So we are all beginners, and we have not been long enough in. There is nothing as such long enough actually in hacking, and we are all beginners, and we love to learn and learn every day and grow. So definitely, we are growing with you and presenting as we go.
Yeah,
We always learning. Security is a field where you have to always learn.
That is true.
that is so true. Thank you for your question, Chitney.
Chitney. Yeah.
And everyone, thank you for participating.
I hope you like our talk, and goodbye, everyone.
It was
Bye,
a great
everyone.
experience.
Have a good evening. Take
Thank you
care.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.